Magandang umaga, magandang hapon, magandang gabi kung saan man kayo sa mundo. Nagbabalik na naman po ang Proyekto Pilipino. Ako si Leloy Claudio at kasama ko po ngayon si Manolo Quezon. And I think important for today is the name actually, the last name which has been really discussed over the past few weeks given that it's a movie na pinapanood sa Pilipinas and ako bilang nasa US, napanood ko na rin ang pangalan na Quezon, which is the name of that particular film. Now, para sa mga hindi gano nagpe-pay attention dun sa debate, ire-recommend ako muna bago nyo panurin to na panurin unang-una yung review ni Manolo sa Rappler ukol sa Quezon in which he called it a horror movie and that's something I want to ask him about. And then secondly, yung isa pa, yung kanyang sinulat sa Philippine Daily Inquirer also about the movie and the process of building a historical narrative. So I don't want to retread a lot of the stuff that Manolo did. I want to medyo iba yung angle natin. Ang angle ko ngayon is really about yung tinatawag namin mga istorya na historiography or paano ba natin sinusulat ang kasaysayan, saan ba nanggagaling ang kasaysayan, at kung ano yung responsibilidad namin bilang mga historiador at yung responsibilidad din ng mga gumagawa ng arte ukol sa kasaysayan. And we're going to use yung discussion over Quezon as a springboard for that broader discussion. Pero unang-una, Manolo, I just want to ask you a little bit about that review that is getting a lot of shares. You said it's a horror movie. I wonder if you could revisit that. Bakit siya horror movie? Natakot ka ba, Manolo, sa sine?
Hindi, but kung titingnan mo ang isang sine, may mga iba't ibang uri ng sine. Merong action, merong romance, may comedy, that sort of thing. Ngayon, pagdating sa isang pelikula katulad nung Quezon, ang iniisip ko, ano ba ang gustong mangyari? Uh, yung gumawa ng sine, di ba? I mean, you have to admit yung gumawa ng movie, yung naglikha is really very unusual because hindi man lang siya director. So hawak niya ang itsura at ang pacing, ang galaw ng sine. Siya rin ang co-writer and in fact yung buong konsepto ng sine galing sa kanya. And then he scored it. Siya ang gumawa ng musical arrangement and then yun ang nagbibigay ng emphasis at drama feelings sa napapanood mo. So in many ways, and I'm sure there's a long German word for it, complete work of art siya sa
Hmm.
musika. No, ngayon, meron kang isang character, yung central character. And then ang unang tinanong ko, bakit um, parang one-dimensional yung character na ito? Bakit ka gagawa ng isang pelikula na one-dimensional yung main character mo when that's ultimately not very interesting and not very revealing? So, ano ibig sabihin nito? Walang development yung character, isang side lang ang nakikita mo. And I realized, ang mga scene na gumagawa nun, yung usually, yung bad guy, wala namang, the easiest way to make a bad guy is bad talaga, bad na bad na
Hmm.
bad.
Yung
But
tinatawag
okay
nilang
lang yun eh.
mustache
Oo, yung
twirling, di
ano,
ba? Oh.
di ba? Oh, but more than that, yung talagang ang habol ng sine is to really leave you feeling angry and parang um yung takeaway mo talaga magagalit ka talaga. And magagalit ka kasi ang unang iisipin mo hindi yung nakaraan in a sense but ang kasulukuyan.
Hmm.
Okay? And ang ginawa dito, ginamit ang nakaraan upang maging tulay sa kasalukuyan.
Hmm.
So, that being the case, I thought it was a horror movie because kailangan yung talagang kikilabutan ka tuwing mag-a-appear yung main character. Kailangan strong ang feelings na lalabas and it cannot be one na, na
Ayan
simpatya.
na, horror movie na nga,
Wala eh.
Manolo. May mga nalalaglag-laglag.
So, that was the main thing. And of course, sa tingin ko, um, you bring your skills to the table, and yung isang very developed skill nung gumawa ng pelikula or movies, yun ang masasabi mong
Yeah.
lengguwahe ng kanyang pagiging artista.
Well, actually, ang favorite ko ng mga actually fan ako ng mga romance movies ni Gerald Tarog. Doon ako unang nanood ng mga sine ni Direk Gerald. And he's a compelling filmmaker. He's an immersive filmmaker regardless of what genre. I think that's what he like like or dislike yung content. Masasabi ko lang na pag nanood ka ng isang Gerald Tarog movie, pumapasok ka talaga doon sa mundo niya. At habang nando ka sa mundo niya, maririnig mo talaga yung boses niya. Litaw na litaw yung boses. He's definitely, as you say, yung parang author siya as a director, di ba, na napakalinaw ng boses. And in a way, it's good because you can debate and you can talk about really his vision because it is his vision. In particular, this movie, Manolo, nabanggit mo, present yung pinag-iisipan ng mga tao. Siguro coincidence na lang na lumabas yung scene na to directly after yung million people march or yung
Yes,
trillion
trillion
peso
peso
march.
march. And you'll see, I mean, part of show business is luck. Alam mo?
Mm.
So, kung walang mga issue na ito, it might have been a harder sell to push that movie. So, propeta ba si director, or was he lucky? Maybe both. Hindi ba?
Mm. Yeah, and in a way, merong ganong element din kahit dun sa first movie niya, yung General Luna, for example, that was pre-Duterte, pero a lot of people saw in General Luna an image of a strong man na nagmumura, na nagpi-PI, and then after that, of course, na-elect si Rodrigo Duterte. So there is a sense that, our films, they reflect the times, but they also condition the times. It's a kind of back and
And
forth, di
I
ba?
think it also
Nakikipag-usap
reflects
yung,
the
yung
audience.
sine.
Sa tingin ko, it
Mm.
also reflects the audience. Ito yung isang naging punto ko. Precisely kasi titingnan mo yung naging big splash dito yung Luna movie, and I know you wrote about it, and I quoted you, and meron din akong strong feelings about that, no, but ang point ko yung the successful creator, like a successful politician, yung nakakahanap ng connect sa kanyang audience.
Mm.
You're a prophet if you have something to say na bukas yung tatanggap ng mensahe mo. Di ba? Bukas na bukas at tatanggapin yung mensahe mo because gets mo sila eh. Kahit
Yeah.
hindi mo ma-articulate ng gusto, maybe it's subconsciously or consciously, gets mo yung takbo ng isip nila. Alam mo paano kunin yung kiliti nila o galitin sila o whatever, paiyakin sila, hindi ba? And I felt that was the case with both Luna and this one. There was one case yung dun sa isang post-screening activity nila, I think sa simula, they had Marian Pastor Roses, um, who's, a very big figure sa cultural communities natin. And nagbigay siya ng kanyang comment na sabi niya, hindi naman lahat ng nangyayari ngayon may direktong ugat sa nakaraan. Things will change. But what I found interesting was yung sinabi ni Marian Pastor Roses, sabi niya, parang hindi gusto ng tao na marinig yun eh. Because yun nga,
Mm.
that broke through the connection na one reason I think many people enjoyed the movie, yung kinuot kong review ni Bart Kingona, sabi niya, he found it cynical, this and that and the other, but he enjoyed it kasi yun nga, gigil na gigil siya sa lahat ng mga politiko. So if you see
Mm.
one very accomplished politiko, parang china-channel noon lahat yung galit at sama ng loob mo sa lahat ng mga
Mm. Mm.
nasa
Mm.
politika ngayon.
Mm. Well, it's a very old trope sa discussion sa atin ng Philippine politics. Noong 1992, si David Timberman, isang political scientist slash historian, he released a book called The Philippines, A Changeless Land. Diba? And a lot of discourse about Philippines is about changelessness. Pero sa tingin ko, Manolo, we like to tell ourselves this, and yet you drive around Metro Manila, you realize na ang daming pinagbago ng Pilipinas. We both of us live abroad now, pero every time umuwi tayo and we go home quite regularly, 'di ba? Ibang-iba. So this idea of changelessness is kind of weird. Even if you think about somebody like Duterte, for example, I don't like Duterte, but he's not necessarily the same kind of politician you had before. He's definitely not Quezon, di ba? And he's also definitely not Marcos. There is change in Philippine politics. Whether or not we like the change is a different question. But why do you think it's so appealing for Filipinos to tell this story? Matagal na nating sinasabi sa sarili natin to. The Philippines is a changeless land.
Because katulad ng and it's the same sa mga pelikula natin because we want someone to blame.
Mm.
My favorite story talaga yung minsan may nakasabay ako na isang film sa isang flight pa uwi. Tapos, di ba mahaba yung flight? Buong flight, syempre dahil kolumnista ako, kailangan ano siya ng lahat ng sama ng loob niya tungkol sa Pilipinas. Tapos kinikwento niya sa akin, sabi niya, ganito, kurakot yung ganun, walang nakikinig doon, incompetent, bla bla bla. Ang dami niyang halimbawa, syempre, masasabi mo lang, oh nga, grabe, talaga, grabe, sama, sama. Di ba, ganun ka. But, nung magla-landing na kami, after all of this, biglang nakita ko, nagbibilang siya ng pera. Tapos may ilang mga files siya. Tapos nakita niya rin, nakatingin ako sa kanya. Tapos sabi niya, ito para sa customs, ito para sa police. And then, alam mo, tapos
Ayun.
after 9 hours ng alam mo, ang problema ng Pilipinas, corruption.
Mm.
And then naisip ko, yun ang isang malaking problema na alam natin kung sinong dapat pagbintangan, wag lang tayo.
Mm, mm.
And
I want
I
to
feel that very strongly.
Yeah, and I want to address this quite squarely, no? And I want to ask you the question: Is Manuel Quezon to blame for a lot of the problems of patronage politics today? I have an answer actually, but I want to hear yours first.
I believe yes in one respect.
Hmm.
In one respect na he was so successful um and yung meron siyang linya na hindi niya tatawirin
Hmm.
but it was very internal na ang nanonood sa kanya hindi nila magigets yun. Ang nakikita lang nila success, success, success.
Okay.
Um, may kakabit rin dito. I call it the idea that nice guys finish last.
Okay.
Sa bawat kwento ni Quezon, merong kinakabit na kwento ni Osmeña.
Aha. Yeah.
Diba? Because one, I really believe one would not have succeeded without the other as a foil. And in the end, it was fortunate for the country na sooner or later, they would always come together to work together. Anyway, yung habol naman ni Osmeña was yung moral victory at the end of the day. Because of this, hindi rin nakikita ng tao na merong how do I explain it? Um, that is a kind of politics in itself yung paghabol nung Consuelo na gano'n how do I explain it best? Claro M. Recto once gave a very strong speech in the 1950s that yung buhay pa lahat yung mga tao at ng mga contemporaries nila nung time na yun. So it was very explosive. Sabi niya, yung buod ng speech niya, alam mo, he was brilliant and this, but si Quezon had no political ideology to begin to speak of.
Mm.
And I always felt that it was a very uh, intellectually dishonest speech because what no one dared say then and up to now was why did Recto choose to make that speech in that particular time? Because that was the time, if you look at the date, this was about 1953. That was the time that Recto started doing all the trapo things. Tumakbo siya as a guest. He was the first guest candidate na baliwala na yung pagiging partido. He was the
Mm.
one, alam mo, he was doing all of these things. And so, the best way to deflect attention from yourself is to blame it on someone else. Inisip niyo na may pagkatrapo ako. May nauna sa akin. Hindi ba?
Ah.
Um,
Oh.
but that's what sticks. So, Osmeña will always take in the end the high road because that's all he's left with. Because much as he tried to fight politically, hindi niya kaya.
Mm. Eh,
So I think in that sense, um, um, Quezon's success became a, a very bad example because hindi na natatandaan yung mga linya na ayaw niyang ituwid.
mm.
And
So
that,
ano yung mga linya na hindi niya kayang itawid? And this is actually something I'm curious about. Kasi I don't know the history around this. For example, yung sa sine, yung siya daw yung nagpa-withhold ng pension ni Aguinaldo, or that's what the movie is arguing. You know, what was it was that really him, or is that an assumption that the filmmakers made?
dalawa ang you can say ang parusa kay Aguinaldo. The first was a case of his own making na may inoccupy siyang lupa and ayaw niyang ayusin yung papeles. And
Mm.
then nung nahanap na may problema doon, binawi sa kanya yung lupa. And
Mm.
after he got repeated reminders to fix the title for his land. Okay, so that's one. Um, and I'll go back to that point. The second point was yung binigyan siya ng pension, and then he went and basically was threatening a coup after the tinanggal yung pension niya after the elections, not before.
Mm. Okay.
And if you remember, there was a big concern na baka mag-coup attempt siya after losing the 1935. Siyempre, ang nangyari, isang Cavite uh, congressman, si Justo Montano, ang gumawa ng panukalang batas na yung pera na bibigay kay Aguinaldo, binigay na lang sa lahat ng mga veterano. So mahirap
Mm. Mm.
labanin. Now, were these politically motivated? You could argue yes. But that's what you get when you enter politics. Because remember, pagbigay nung pension na yon was because he was above politics as the former president and retired and all of that. And then bumaba at nakipag-away. So you could say that was the case. Now, I found it very interesting na after that, nung nag-reconcile sila, ni Quezon, si Aguinaldo,
Mhm.
and Quezon reconciled in 1940, hindi binalik yung pension.
Okay.
So it was only returned after the war when by another president. So
The reason being, hindi siya gano'n ka-importante pala. Kung gano'n.
and also because it's yung it I think it would have been undignified for Aguinaldo to beg for his money. And second of all, it would have been not a real reconciliation kung yung pala pera lang ang pinag-uusapan.
Mm.
That's what I
I
think.
see. That's interesting. And ito yung pupunta na tayo dito dun sa concern ko, which is of course the historiographical concern. So paano ba natin sinusulat yung kasaysayan? Ako ito yung pag nagzo-zoom out, and this is not about the film anymore. Pag nagzo-zoom out, ang hirap talaga, and this is what I realized, ang hirap magsulat about the period from 1900 to 1946. For one very simple reason. Pag tinignan mo ang archive, ang dami sa mga sources mo, especially in English, are written by Americans na meron sarili nilang bias. As you know, Manolo, I got really interested dun sa isang scene dun sa movie about yung collapse of the Philippine National Bank. And then of course dun sa scene na-reinforce yung idea na kaya nag-collapse yung Philippine National Bank dahil corrupt yung mga Pilipino na dito to sa scene. Okay, I'm not blaming Gerald Tarog for getting this wrong because everyone else has gotten this wrong, and I'm hoping to get it right eventually. So tinignan ko yung issue na yun, yung collapse ng Philippine National Bank, which Leonard Wood blamed primarily on Osmeña, pero may sabit din si Quezon ng konti. Kasi si Quezon was the leader of the independence movement. So, ang ginawa ko, pumunta ako sa Harvard. Sa Harvard, nandun yung files ni Cameron Forbes who co-wrote that report with Leonard Wood. And dun sa report na yon, merong notes, literally notes na excised from the report. Yung iba pa nga punet, so kailangan mong idikit-dikit yung papel. At ang sinasabi doon na ang pinaka-corrupt, hindi yung mga tao ni Quezon o ni Osmeña, ang pinaka-corrupt yung mga Amerikano. But of course, that was hidden from the archive and wala doon. Yung isa pa, I was looking at what Quezon was trying to say during this period. konti lang yung masabi niya, hindi dahil wala siyang alam tungkol sa economics, kundi dahil wala siyang access sa books ng Philippine National Bank, dun sa files. Kasi mostly these files were run, these institutions were run by the Americans. So kulang yung access mo dun sa files and maybe a little less economic training compared to the Americans. So you couldn't bite back. So it's so hard to write this period into history, especially by the way if you don't speak Spanish. Kasi yung mga nagde-debate, yung mga dumidebate kay Quezon at saka kay Osmeña were writing
Puro
in the Spanish
Castilla.
language. Oo, yung mga pro Osmeña, pro Quezon, ang outlet niyan yung El Debate, for example. So ngayon kung ikaw ay historiador, binabasa mo lang English, binabasa mo yung Manila Times. By the way, Manila Times has its own biases today. Pero nung panahon na yun, 1920s, 1930s, Manila Times was a pro-American paper or if you want to be nationalist about it, pro-American rag. So kailangan mo ring basahin yung El Debate. Hindi sa walang pagkiling yung El Debate, may pagkiling yun kay Quezon at kay Osmeña. But I think if as historians we read both these, we accept that both these sources are biased and then we try to triangulate from these sources, then we open up a kind of better history of that period. So this is not so much a like a critique of Gerald Tarok. This is a challenge to us historians to really rethink this period kasi ang lakas pala ng boses ng mga Amerikano dito. And I wonder if that's something you've encountered also, yung lakas lang talaga ng boses ng mga Amerikano sa archive.
Well, I mean, it shows you, sa akin kasi, yung the fundamental thing that surprises me are two things, okay? Number one, ang lakas pa rin nung perception na malinis ang mga Amerikano at ang gold standard ang pagpapatakbo nila kumpara sa mga kapalpakan ng mga Pinoy. Okay?
Yes, sobra.
That's one. And I think that permeates everything very, very thoroughly. When at the very least, you should be questioning both.
Mm.
Pangalawa, yung and I feel very bad for many Filipino historians na talagang uphill yung ano nila. Yung this quote yung I prefer a government run like hell, etc., etc. And ang dami pa rin mga Pilipino na ay sana estado pa rin tayo ng Amerika.
54.
And,
Oh.
and I'm like, oh my God, hanggang ngayon meron pa rin ganitong pananaw. Um, and sa akin, if you're still thinking that up to now, there's something really, really the matter.
Mm.
Um, that's what I feel.
Mm.
And but basically, Leonard, yung problema kasi was this whole period was diminished dahil in the end, yung it doesn't fulfill anyone's feeling of accomplishment that we were able to get independence by negotiating it. Dahil wala
Mm.
tayong dramatic war of liberation, wala tayong upheaval ng social system and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're very unique in that sense, 'di ba? When you speak of the Philippine Revolution, it's the revolution that failed. Yung Indonesian Revolution, yung leader ng revolution, siya rin yung naging presidente, si Sukarno. Yung Vietnamese Revolution, ang leader ng revolution na yun, si Ho Chi Minh, siya rin yung naging leader ng bansa. Ang leader ng Philippine Revolution, sabi mo man si Rizal yan, si Bonifacio yan, or si Aguinaldo yan, hindi naman talaga sila naging presidente ng bansa. Si Aguinaldo may be fleeting. Right? But the state was not constituted by the revolutionaries. So what do we make of these people who create negotiated independence? And what do we make of a country that was born not through warfare but through politics? Uh, parang kinahihiya natin na ang bansa natin was a country born of politics when actually it's not necessarily a bad thing. For example, I read what you wrote about yung difference ng two independence bills. Yung hair horse cutting bill na sinasabi nila was a good enough bill na dapat pinasa pero ayaw daw ni Quezon dahil hindi siya nagpasa. Pero actually, you showed na marami naman palang mali talaga dun sa bill na yon because it would have cut off our exports at the knees and then wala tayong pera in the long run. Yung isa pang sinasabi nila na hypocrisy daw ni Quezon, for example, na he was advocating for independence but in private he was very afraid about the economic state of the country. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Na parang you outside, you want to may bluster ka because of course you're rallying the troops. But in the privacy of negotiations, syempre you have more flexibility. I don't think that's not necessary. I don't think that's a hypocritical position. I think that's politics.
Well, that's the problem. Yung isang punto ko about the movie and in general is um, ang mga hindi naman tama sabihin na yung hindi bihasa sa politika, but yung are viewing politics purely from the outside na paminsan-minsan lang tumatanaw kumpara
Mm.
sa babad sa politika or pinag-aralan kung paano talagang nangyayari ang politika. That's when you have these value judgments that I don't think are helpful. Um,
Mm.
I mean, I try to explain to people kung let's say, I mean, I was with I've been with the Inquirer, and every employee of the Inquirer benefits from the um yung pagne-negotiate ng union, di ba?
Mhm.
So yung mga benepisyo ng mga empleyado, hindi naman yung gantimpala mula sa 'di ba, mula sa langit. Kailangan ipag-awa, paglaban 'yon. And it's the it's the union that does that. Ngayon, in any negotiation, kailangan mag-hardline ka kasi kung sa simula pa lang flexible ka, talagang paatras na lang ng paatras ang usapan eh. At the
Mm.
very least, walang minimum na makakamit. But at the same time, like you were saying, sa pagtapos na yung oras sa pagpupustura, kailangan na rin pag-usapan yung seryosong bagay in a responsible way.
Mm.
And that's when you know kung talagang tapat sa iyo yung negotiate para sa iyo o hindi, di ba? I mean, I'll
Mm.
give another example. You can have a case where overboard naman yung union and then isasara na lang yung kumpanya. And then ano na nangyari, di ba? That may be good kung ang habol ng ibang hanay ng uh, mga nagtatrabaho doon ay gera na, di ba? But
Mm.
on the other hand, for most workers, that's yun din ang ayaw mong mangyari. So
Mm.
that's simply my point there.
Yeah, and I guess some of those things they're not easy to represent cinematically. Oh, bumalik na naman ako sa sine. Pero just as an aside, if you think about Quezon as a figure, a lot of the things he did, like itong complex negotiations, maybe some of that is fun to represent in the film, parang House of Cards style, for example, or maybe even West Wing if you want to be idealistic about it. But the other achievements, for example, legislative achievements, economic achievements, like for example, one of the things I really like about Manuel Quezon was he was one of the first promoters along with Osmeña of industrial policy. Sila yung, si Quezon talaga yung nag-imagine ng NEC, National Economic Council, na naging NEDA ngayon. Kung wala si Quezon, wala tayong NEDA. And if Quezon were still around, NEDA is a very weak institution today, by the way. Mas malakas yung central bank, mas malakas yung finance, mas malakas yung budget. But I think if Quezon was president today, ang malakas yung NEDA because he was really invested in that institution. Um, in the 1950s, pinahina ng pinahina yung NEDA under Magsaysay. Sinubukan niyang palakasin yung NEDA for a while. Humina ulit yung NEDA. So si itong brainchild ni Quezon of an NEC, we've never actually, it was his vision. And I suggest we should actually revisit it as a concept. And then si Osmeña, of course, yung Philippine National Bank. And then there's yung Board of Investments, I think, what it was
Board of
called.
control.
So they, Board of Control, na all of these institutions, by the way, that would try to close. And kung hindi quote-unquote trapo si Quezon at saka si Osmeña, he would have been able to close them. Kasi dun sa sine, di ba, pinapakita na si Osmeña, si Quezon, mahilig pumustura, magre-resign na kami. I-dissolve na namin yung cabinet. True, those were tactics, but what else did they use it for? They used it to save things like the Philippine National Bank, the Board of Control, and things like that. And it's the economic vision that I think we've forgotten because these people had industrial policy. And today, when we're trying to think about industrial policy, maybe we should also revisit that particular part of their legacy na siguro nakalimutan na natin. Mga kaibigan sa NEDA, di ba? Parang pasalamatan nyo naman ng konti yung person who imagined what NEDA could be and
Well,
what it should be,
it took
I
a
think.
while. It was only nung panahon ng current NEDA chief, nung the first, nandun siya nung time ni President Aquino. They had forgotten that the NEDA is actually the descendant of the National Economic Council. They
Mm.
didn't realize it because the majority of our bureaucracy hanggang 1972 lang ang memory nila.
Mm.
So hindi sila talaga aware na anything came before that.
Mm.
Um, and then I was very grateful na no, aware naman siya, and then now they fixed that narrative. But then I was questioning him afterwards. Sabi ko, bakit naman kayo pumayag na naging cabinet department na lang kayo? Di ba? Parang
Mm.
maraming sinuko kayo, and that's, I guess, practical reality.
Yeah, pero let me just reemphasize yung vision ni Quezon for that. The NEC would be the alter ego of the president when it came to economic policy. So kung nagsalita yung NEC, boses ng presidente yon sa economic policy. Ngayon wala nang iisang boses yung presidente sa economic policy, 'di ba? Meron kayong cabinet cluster, 'di ba, na nagko-contest. But yung NEC was really the ability of the president to say ito yung landas sa tatahakin natin. Ito yung plano natin. Ngayon kasi walang plano eh. Yung plano nanggagaling sa labas. And ito yung sinasabi ng mga maraming economist na nire-respeto ko. For example, si Jesus Felipe, si Stevie Cunyeng. Stevie Cunyeng basically just said, para kasi tayong teacher's pet bilang Pilipinas, sunod-sunuran lang tayo dun sinasabi ng pribadong merkado at ng mga foreigners, and then that's what we do. But this idea that you have a very powerful body who is responsible only to the president, who speaks for the president, who says, merong economic na landas na dapat takin yung Pilipinas. That's not sexy on film. Yun lang problema, Manolo. And yun yung gusto kong itanong sa'yo.
Alam mo,
When it comes to dealing with politicians who deal in legislation, and it's more fun to look at games and tactics and political chess, how do you make legislation sexy?
I'll show you. There are two movies you can watch
Oh,
that make
sige,
it
sige.
very
Okay.
sexy. The number one, of course, is Lincoln. Di ba? I
Yeah,
mean, the
yeah.
Philippine examples, but watch Lincoln, because the whole thing of Lincoln was gusto niyang amyendahan ng konstitusyon para gawing permanente yung pag-abolish
Mm.
ng slavery. And the whole
Right,
thing is
right.
about yung different agendas and strategy. Number two is there's this film called, the guy from Breaking Bad,
Mhm.
si
Yung
the
bida, yung drug dealer.
uh and
Oo.
he made a movie called All the Way about Lyndon Johnson. And yung si Lyndon Johnson was a Southerner, naging presidente dahil pinatay si Kennedy. And isip ng lahat ng mga itim na kalaban niya sila, because he was from the South and he was never known for being in favor of civil
Mm.
rights. And then biglang ginamit niya, he was really one of the most brilliant um, strategists sa buong
Mm.
kasaysayan ng Senado ng Amerika. Nung naging Pangulo siya, he single-handedly maneuvered the passage of the Civil Rights Law and then the Voting Rights Act. And
Mm.
kinalaban niya lahat ng mga matatalik na mga kaibigan niya from the South. Pinaguntog niya ang mga puti at yung mga itim para magkaisa sila at magtulungan.
Mm.
And it's really a master class in how you get things done politically, na may
Mm.
halong idealism and halong talagang really dirty
Brass tacks.
maneuvering.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, you can do it. No, ito yung point ko, that I really want to be clear. Wala sa akin, o dapat wala sa atin, na diktahan ng lumikha ng isang bagay kung paano niya dapat gawin yon. Choice niya yon.
Mm.
And then choice na rin niya paano niya ikikwenta yung gusto niyang ikwentong kwento. At
Mm.
nasa audience naman na husgaan kung type nila o hindi yung
Mm.
pelikula. Para sa
Mm.
mga ibang nanonood din, katulad natin, may punto de vista rin tayo
Mm.
na either sang-ayon tayo o hindi sang-ayon sa
Mm.
ginawa ng manilikha na yun.
Mm.
Um, I think it's more difficult kung, and then that applies to history. Yung history, in a sense, is rekado lang yan para sa recipe nung manilikha As everyone likes to say, hindi naman ito academic paper, hindi naman siya documentary. Basically, relevant lang ang fact kung useful sa kwento na gusto mong ikwento. Ngayon,
Mhm.
nung nakipagtalunan kayo ni Gerald Tarog, sabi niya, hindi ko naman trabaho na asikasuhin yung mga mabababaw ang kaisipan ng mga tao na isipin nila lahat ng pinapanood
Mm.
nila totoo pala, hindi.
Oo.
Di ba? And I think, yes, sure, but at the same time, naive din na isip na hindi mo tatanggapin na, teka, may manonood nito, naisipin nila lahat ng nakita nila sa entablado o sa screen, totoo pala.
Si Mocha Uson, Manolo, na-inspired daw bumoto kay Duterte, magsuportahan si Duterte partly because napanood niya yung General Luna. She's on
Sure.
the record as saying
And,
that.
and then, so I mean, I have that a phrase for it in politics, yung the law of unintended consequences. Kahit
Mm.
hindi mo sinadya, malay mo kung ano magiging
Mm.
epekto nito
Mm.
sa ibang tao. And either
Mm.
it will make you wiser the next time,
Mm.
or dapat at the very least, harapin natin yun. It's
Mm.
the same, I'm sure I hurt the feelings of some historian friends na sabi ko, kung historiador ka at let's say, uh, hindi naman kinakampanya but pinopromote mo itong film, you better be sure na sang-ayon ka sa lahat ng laman nito dahil binigyan mo na ng basbas itong buong pelikula. And pwede mong sabihin na, well, hindi naman lahat and pwede namang oportunidad nito para linawin. Sure, but kailangan mo rin tanggapin na sa lipunan natin, aba may katungkulan ka at sa isipin ng tao, okay yan kasi okay sa kanya.
Mm.
And that's it. But,
Mm. Mm. I must say din na ako, kaya hindi ako, I was a bit harsher nung panahon nung Luna kaysa dito for one very simple reason. Kung napanood ko tong scene na to 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I would have actually shared the cynicism. Kasi ito naman yung standard, if you are a historian or you're teaching basic history classes, never ka talaga nag-focus sa Commonwealth, 1920s, panahon ni Quezon. Diba, nagtuturo ka ng basic historical classes, overview, tatawagin mo talagang trapo si Quezon because that's what most of the history books say. Hindi lang naman yung sources ni Gerald Tarog. Ang daming sources niyan. Kung tingnan mo yung libro na Ilustrado Politics, for example, that details the early life of Manuel Quezon. Very nice, pero trapo siya, produkto siya ni Colonel Bandholz, for example. And then yun lang yung dahilan bakit naging gobernador siya. Kung titignan mo yung mga libro kagaya ng Anarchy of Families, basically it says na yung trapo politics has been around arguably since the time of the Spaniards, since the time nagkaroon ka ng Principalia, di ba? So if you're teaching a broad arc Philippine history class, you're looking at it from that big picture in terms of, and most historians do this, of the Philippines do this, yung elite, and then isa-slot mo lang si Quezon into that history of the elite. It was only when I really studied the 1920s when I realized, teka muna, may ibang nangyayari dito. Because these people were really excited about having a new country. I don't think Filipinos today understand what it felt like siguro nung 1920s, 1930s,
that was
1940s
a,
na
that was a,
unang-unang
I couldn't have
pagkakataon mong
faith.
pwede maging pumasok sa Malacanang. We cannot fathom that, na denied tayo bilang mga Pilipino sa Malacanang for hundreds of years. And then suddenly, meron kang pwedeng gawin. I think kahit even if we assume na masamang tao na Frankenstein talaga si Manuel Quezon, masama talaga siyang tao. I honestly think that the idea of going into Malacanang as a Filipino and just feeling the weight of that probably changes you in a certain way that we cannot fathom.
Well, that was yung, I still belong to the generation na binabasa pa namin yung essay ni Romulo, yung I Am a Filipino.
Mm,
Di ba? But hindi
mm,
na uso yun eh. But I think that helps recapture it. That was one of my criticisms na um, yung portrayal kay Leonard Wood and that sort of thing. And I always tell people, I don't know where this idea of the American era came from. Yung ano ko lang sa kanila, at this time where this movie was set, kung Pilipino ka, bawal ka sa Army Navy Club. They would have
Mm.
kicked you out kasi there was
Mm.
literally a sign, no dogs and Filipinos
No
allowed.
Filipinos yan.
Alam mo?
Mm.
Um, Kahit ang mga pwedeng pasukan, you're talking about industrialization, ang idea lang was tayong taga-supply ng asukal, kahoy, kopra, hindi ba?
Abaka.
Abaka, and then
Mm.
yung mga finished na products, yun ang bibili natin na
Mm.
wala sa atin na gumawa ng mga bagay na kailangan sa modernong pamumuhay.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and I mean, and just yung early part of the movie is set around 1922. Just about 6 years before that, kung pupunta ka sa yung tinatawag na cabaret, yung
Mm.
what we would call a club today,
Mm.
there was literally a color line ng mga Pilipino pwede lang sumayaw sa kaliwa, ang mga puti
Mm.
sasayaw sa kanan, and it
Mm.
took FB Harrison and Quezon to go out and break that barrier. The American Governor
Mm.
General started dancing in the Filipino side. And alam mo, yung inisip mo na parang that whole world view na talagang sabi ko, this movie could only have been made now dahil lahat na ng mga buhay ng panahon
Mm.
na yun, wala na. So no one
Oo.
can tell you what it was like.
Oo. And no one can tell you what it was like for Wood kasi si Wood napikon siya. Dahil nga si FB Harrison, si Osmeña, si Quezon, sinira nila yung color line na yun. They put Filipinos in the bureaucracy. They kicked out Americans from the police, from the health services, from the Philippine National Bank. So yung si Wood, kaya siya ganun dahil galit siya. Galit siya na itong mga bastos na Pilipino na to, nagtatanggal ng Amerikano. Babawian ko itong mga to. Kaya nung naging Governor General si Leonard Wood noong 1920, that was not a neutral act of restoring the bureaucracy. Binabawian talaga niya si Quezon at saka si Osmeña because they dared to put Filipinos in those particular positions. Kaya kung basahin nyo, hindi lang yung Woodford's report, yung rhetoric ng mga tao kagaya ni Wood noong time na yun, they were blaming Filipinos for everything. For example, 1920, 1921, nagkaroon ng Spanish flu. Sino daw may kasalanan? Sina Quezon, sina Osmeña dahil sinira nila yung bureaucracy. Spanish flu ito ah.
Yung
Ah,
worldwide pandemic, yung
si
COVID nung panahon na yun.
Si Osmeña nagsulat in Spanish. Si Quezon nagsusulat in Spanish. Sabi nila mga traidor daw, mga hidden Hispanophiles and fascists dahil lang kakastila sila. Ganun ka petty, ganun ka petty. So, we may concede that Quezon and Osmeña and these people were petty, but like they were all being petty dahil nagbabawian to mga to. And ultimately, who has the moral high ground? Let's say everyone's petty. Who has the moral high ground? Aba, syempre tayo. Tayong sinasakop eh. Ay, nakalimutan na ba natin yon? 'Di ba? Parang in a game of pettiness, the person who has the moral high ground is the person who is being assaulted and who is coming from and who is defending his rights. Um, and yun yung step back na sa tingin ko kailangan natin gawin. Para ba saan yung kahit sabihin natin katrapo ito, para ba saan? I think Lyndon Johnson is a great example kasi si Robert Caro who is a great historian of power and no better and he's the greatest historian let's say of katrapuhan in the United States, 'di ba? He wrote I think two, three books. There's a fourth one coming on Lyndon
Yes.
Johnson and how well he used power. But even Robert Caro admits na trapo si Lyndon Johnson, but he is able to explore the way in which Johnson used the levers of power to create equality, Civil Rights Act, for example. And I think like pwede naman eh, you can have it both ways in the case of Quezon. You can have a Lyndon Johnson type figure who knew how to wield the levers of power, who understood patronage politics, pero meron pa ring national development in the back of his mind. Kasi you can have both and uh, I, I really wish that we had movies where kasi ay, hindi ko napanood yung Goyo. Baka yung Goyo is the most interesting. Kasi si Luna medyo heroic. Si Quezon medyo masama. Meron bang middle ground? Baka yung Goyo. Maybe I should watch Goyo. But we should have a middle ground vision of a hero. Like Lyndon John like perfect yung sinabi mo na Lyndon Johnson. People should read about Lyndon Johnson. Baka siya ning closest to Quezon actually.
Yeah, that's what I think. You and that's what I find interesting. I always tell people that alam mo, one my bias is sanctity is boring. It's
Mm.
the gray areas that are interesting. And alam mo, yung isang bagay din na gusto kong banggitin was one area is where did we learn some of these things? Alam mo, yung
Mm.
pinapunta si Leonard Wood dito sa Pilipinas dahil natalo siya sa pagiging kandidato for the presidency sa kanyang partido. So sinipa siya sa Pilipinas to get him out of the way nung nanalong presidente si Warren Harding. And then isipin mo medyo alam mo dugas yung ginawa sa kanya ng kapartido niya. Ginawa siyang Governor General ng Pilipinas na basically limitless ang kapangyarihan and alam ng lahat dahil gumawa sila ng Wood-Forbes report na talagang hindi gusto ni Wood ang nangyari sa Pilipinas at gusto niyang i-turn back yung clock. And then the first thing that Harding says is walang aatras.
Mm.
Wala tayong ibabalik sa dati. So biglang natali na ang kamay ni And then so you can
Mm.
see in a sense bakit malakas ang loob din ng mga Pilipino dahil alam nila na checkmate si Wood.
Mm.
And the thing is na although at a certain point checkmate din ng mga Pilipino dahil kahit paano ang gobernador general pa rin ang masusunod. So at the end, that's why for years it was just checkmate. And
Mm.
si Quezon mismo nagsabi, well, ang nangyari lang dito, namatay si Wood at ako na TB. Diba?
Oo, oo,
So,
oo.
so, but that's how brutal the fight was.
Mm. Kung gera yan, we wouldn't have thought twice about it eh. Kunwari, may pinatay ka sa gera, sasabihin mo, may pinatay sa gera.
Hmm.
Ah, ganun ang ginagawa ng mga revolusyonaryo sa gera. So, for example, if Quezon had been a kind of war leader instead of a political leader and he had killed someone in the battlefield, we wouldn't condemn him for it. But
Yeah.
because he's a political animal and his warfare was politics, suddenly we think it's dirty. But that was his warfare, and warfare is dirty. And you're trying to gain independence from the Americans. You are engaged in war, except it's a kind of political war.
Well,
Pero
alam mo
yun nga,
the famous saying, war is politics by other means.
yung Sun Tzu. So, pero yun nga, I know I already asked you about alternatives. Hindi tayo, neither of us are filmmakers, but this is actually a relatively underexplored area compared to yung period na gusto talaga natin na linalagay sa sine, which is yung panahon ni Rizal, panahon ng Katipunero, ganyan. 19th century, we love putting that on film.
Alam mo, Lelo,
Itong
there's something that
American period, hindi pa natin gano'ng pinag-iisipan kung paano natin talaga i-represent.
hindi because we were taught that it's all alam mo yung there was I'm convinced and I've been writing about this for 20 years. Nung 1960s, nung umabot tayo sa 1960s, at biglang malakas ang student movement which was basically left.
Mm.
Um biglang naisip na mga this started in the time of Macapagal na teka, hindi exciting yung kwento ng bayan natin na nag-succeed tayo through our own wits.
Mm,
Yung mga
mm,
ito, iniisip niyo ang kwento nila. Tingnan niyo yung Long March sa China, tingnan niyo yung Ho Chi Minh Trail sa ano, parang talo tayo dito. So ang antidote naman nila, pag-usapan na natin 1896, 1898. Yun doon tayo tumanaw, doon tayo tumingin para humanap ng mga ehemplo na pwedeng itanghal. Um, which was very reactive and and in a sense doesn't make sense because kung yun ang the only way that makes sense is kung natalo tayo nung 1898 and everything has been a letdown ever since, ibig sabihin uh, talagang uto-uto lahat tayo at baliwala lahat ng nangyari. And in which case, it's a national exercise in self defeating ourselves. Alam
mm,
mo?
mm,
Um, imbes na maghanap ng, teka, yung every generation builds on the previous one. Si Jojo Abenales, for example, wrote an article about 20 years ago which always struck me. Sabi niya, hindi natin tinatanong kung nanalo talaga yung revolusyon in 1898, would the Philippines have held together? Sa
Mm.
kanyang pananaw, hilaw pa. So it might have broken apart. And sabi niya, it was
Mm.
only the 1920s and that era, yung bakbakan sa mga Amerika, that fused things together
Mm.
so that it would
Siguro nga,
stay
oo.
together.
Kasi nga, nabanggit mo, meron ka rin isang sinulat dati, Manolo, na sabi mo, actually, sobrang hilaw because because they thought the Caroline Islands and the Marianas were part of the Philippines. Some of them in the Malolos Constitution, in the Malolos Congress didn't think that Mindanao was part of the Philippines. So kung nabuo yung Pilipinas, baka, kung
Sa,
nabuo man, baka ibang-iba yung Pilipinas natin.
yeah, that's true. So alam mo, every generation has to build on its own. But ang punto ko rin naman talaga is there's a very interesting comment. Um, Someone said it recently. Filipinos hate politics but love elections.
Mhm. Totoo
Alam mo,
yan.
sabi ko, wow, ang lalim nun ah. So yung pagbuo ng batas, yung the whole concept of negotiations, yung tactics, parang di natin gusto eh. Kasi in a sense, wala tayo dun eh. Di ba? Yung mga nasa itaas na lang ang gumagawa nun at kilos-kilos nila. Pumapalakpak tayo, depende sa how entertaining it is, which is why it has to be entertaining, sa pula, sa puti, di ba? Parang ganon. But yung talagang feeling natin may taya tayo, tumataya tayo pag botohan, pag eleksyon, which is why even Marcos couldn't get rid of elections, di ba?
Mm.
Kung yung kahit paano yung substitute niya was having one referendum after another para kahit paano boto pa rin ng boto ang tao.
Mm.
Ang punto ko lang doon yung I was asking another historian yung can you think of any political movies na magaling sa Pilipinas? And sabi niya, well, Sister Stella X, but besides that, sabi niya, bakit naman ako manonood ng sine about something I hate?
Mm. Mm.
So, in that sense, of course, you will make a movie na type ng tao. And if we hate politics, baka the Filipino movie is not a place to find, alam mo, baka pa sa nobela, I don't know. But I found that very interesting.
Sa tingin mo, a complex political story cannot be told cinematically, hindi pa hinog ang panahon sa Pilipinas para sa ganong klaseng kwento?
I think it could and it might. Ang problema, I don't think um, there are movie makers right now who know the politics enough. Which
Mm.
was why one of my criticisms was yung sabi ko, yung sa Amerika naman pag when you see House of Cards and that sort of thing, sa dulo may mga credits, consultant from Congress, mga ganun. Kasi kailangan paliwanag yung mga bagay na yun eh, just to make it
Mm.
realistic.
Mm.
Para
Mm.
hindi science fiction, di ba? But um, if they took the trouble to ask politicians how it's done, malay mo if a light bulb will, kasi depende na sa kwento mo yun, depende na sa diskarte mo yun eh. But you need the raw materials. In the same way, pinagmamalaki nung gumawa ng pelikula na nagbasa sila ng 50 libro, sure, you can read that. But iba pa rin yung ins and outs of the game. Kung gusto mong ipakita na laro lang ito and that's your right to do it kasi kwento mo siya, you might as well do the research that goes into it is my point.
Mm. So I think we need to close now, and I have a couple of final thoughts, and then Manolo, you should close us out because I mean I learned so much from you on this issue from your two reviews and our conversation now. Pero ako ito lang yung sasabihin ko. Ako may journey ako dito eh. Gaya ng nabanggit ko nung una, ang pagtingin ko kay Quezon was the exact same as the movie. In fact, 6 years ago, nung sumulat ako ng isang criticism ng Luna, sabi ko kay Direk Gerald Tarog, sana pag ginawa niya yung Quezon movie, maging Filipino House of Cards ito. And if you've seen House of Cards, katrapuhan yung House of Cards. So in a way, wala akong karapatang magreklamo, sinasabi ko talaga to, dahil in a way I got what I want. This was a Filipino House of Cards. But a lot of things can happen in 6 years. And I have, this is the biggest 180 in my career as a historian. Hindi na ako kasing obsessed sa katrapuhan in Philippine politics because I've become a lot more obsessed about legislation. And I don't know why that forced me to rethink how I would approach this field, but I think it's just really important when we look at political figures to not to look at the game, yes, but also to look at the results. And I would say when you assess any Philippine president, look at the results ng legislation nila. So for example, kay Quezon, things like NEC, suffrage for women, of course, things like for Osmeña, things like the Philippine National Bank, yung growth ng economy ng panahon na yon. And that can be boring, and Manolo did say that there is a way to represent that cinematically. But maybe it is not ang napagtanto ko dito, maybe it's not the maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. Maybe it's not the duty of the filmmaker to do that, because it's difficult to make that kind of movie, although pwede naman. Maybe that is my duty as a historian to present these ideas. And I'm trying to make up for a lot of wrong historiography that I wrote over the years. And dahil sa mea culpa ko, dahil sa sarili kong pagkakamali, I'm forced to really revisit this period, and who knows what I'm gonna think in five years about this period. But it's a period that really opened my mind. And if somebody like me who's been in this game for a very long time, na matagal lang akong historiador, kaya ko pa magbago ng isip ko tungkol sa figures like Quezon and Osmeña. Siguro marami pang kayo, mga viewers, there are many figures you'd like to revisit, not just in Philippine politics, world politics, but maybe even in current politics. Ayun lang. Manolo, close us out, please.
Sa akin, isa lang yung mensahe ko dito. Nakita natin na may nagbanggaan dito dahil sa pelikulang ito. On one hand, ang mga nagsasabi na walang pananagutan ang lumikha ng isang bagay, isang nobela o pelikula, at ang ginawa niya, yun na lang ang magsasalita para sa bagay na yun. At yung mga iba nagsasabi, hindi. Kung meron kang gagawin, merong mga maapektuhan. Katulad ng mga pamilya o kaya mga taong nabanggit. Sa akin, nakikita natin na may punto ang dalawang panig at nasa atin kung paano ba natin i-resolve ito. Sa akin, yung pinakasimpleng response na nakuha ko, yung may nagtanong sa akin, hindi ba kayo kinonsulta sa pelikulang ito? And sabi ko, hindi. At wala naman silang obligasyon na gawin yun. And then, ang sagot, hindi naman tama yun. Um, I don't know what's right because on one hand, nagpapasalamat ako na hindi kami kinonsulta because anong gagawin mo kung yung pala hindi talaga gusto mo yung ipapalabas nila? Then maiipit ka rin. But on the other
Mm.
hand, what I felt was good about this was malaya ang lahat ng mga panig na ilabas ang kanilang sentimento. At dahil dito, marami na rin lumabas ng mga response at mga reflections dito. And I think kung ang hangarin nung gumawa ng pelikula ay paisipin ng mga tao, very successful. Because ang daming lumabas na mga artikulo, ang daming lumabas na mga opinion, and ang daming nagbasa, hindi lang nanood. In
Mm.
which case, I think, at hindi naging masyadong, I mean, of course, may naging personal minsan at meron ding mga hinanakit ang ibang tao, and I think none of us is blameless there. But on the whole, I felt it was a very mature conversation.
I agree. I agree. Mm.
So sa
And
akin, we're in good hands kung yung pala ang reaction natin
yeah,
bilang lipunan.
yeah. And ako, sabi ko, salamat din kay Direk Gerald, of course, na talagang nag-usap. I mean, if anything talaga, si Direk Gerald, knows how to make us talk. uh, Regardless of what you think about Direct Gerald, kaya I actually sent him through one of his crew members. I said, please congratulate Direct for me because number one, I enjoyed the film despite my disagreements, and number two, of course, he can make this country talk about history. And sometimes for us historians and for us who work in civics like Proyekto Pilipino, minsan yun lang ang gusto namin eh. Kasi pag nagkaroon ng diskusyon na may respeto, marami nang natututunan yung mga tao. And I'm sure, viewers, you know a lot more about the 1930s, 1920s to 1940s today than you did before the release of Quezon. So, if only for that, salamat sa mga taong nakipag-usap sa amin at nakipag-usap sa mga direktor at sa mga manlilikha. Ito po ang proyekto, and with that, I think we say, ito po ang proyekto Pilipino. On that note, sa ngalan po ni Father Tito Kaluwag, ako po si Eloy Claudio with Manolo Quezon. We'll see you next week.